As you can see, my name is Allison Barton, and I'm actually the health educator here at Moore Park College. And I've been here a couple of years now, and I love it. It's a lot of fun to be on a college campus. I did want to make sure everybody knows about the Student Health Center because it's this beautifully rich service that we provide students who already have paid for it, $19 a semester. So just know that we have a lot of really nice programs there. We have psychological counseling, nutrition counseling, mindfulness training a couple times a week. I have a lot of information up here that you just feel free to take, and if you know somebody else who could use it, you could take more than one thing. The cards on the end just have all of our services. So, and please come and visit us. We have lots to offer our students. So the first activity we're going to do right out of the gate that I find is very helpful, especially if people have never done mindfulness before, and that is just to sit up nice and tall in your chair. Even if you can get your feet flat on the floor, that's good. Just sit up feeling like your body is almost suspended by a string, pulling your head up high. That's it, good. And we're going to do a little visualization that I think would be helpful if everybody did as they entered a classroom, just every time. This would be a really good strategy. So it's called the box. And first thing I find easier to do, and if you're comfortable with it, go ahead and close your eyes and just imagine a big box, whatever color you want, whatever finish on it you want. And now just open the lid of the box. And then we're going to store those things that are on your mind, the things that you're kind of concerned about, the things that you're maybe worried about, and just put those things as they arise in the box. Maybe a little picture of the thing will even appear in your mind's eye. And just gently place it in the box for safekeeping for later, because you don't need that right now. Beautiful. Maybe one or two more things can fit in that box. All right, now put the lid back on the box, and you can tie a bow around it or a rope around it. You can put a gigantic padlock on it, wrap a lot of chain around it if you want to, and then just set that box aside in your mind. All of those things are going to be safe. You'll be able to access them later, but right now they're just safe in the box. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and open our eyes again, and we can just talk about what today is all about now. Maybe. There we go. All right. So, so by the end of this presentation, I want you to be able to describe mindfulness to a friend. And I always say it that way because, you know, I want you to be able to have your little elevator speech ready. Like, I'm going to mindfulness. Oh, what is that? And you can just quickly say in a sentence or two what it is. I want you to be able to name at least 3 benefits of a mindfulness practice. And then I want you to also be able to know how to do a mindfulness practice on your own without any leadership or facilitation on our part. And then lastly, I want you to know how to be able to find mindfulness training at Moore Park College. That's what we call our mindfulness program here at school. All right, so let's get started. Well, what is mindfulness anyway? So, synonyms of mindfulness are focus or attention, the here and the now, calm, acceptance, feeling kind of placid, all of those things. We know that they can help with academics. There's been a lot of research to show that. How might it help with acceptance or calm? So try for a moment just to consider what carries your attention away from in class or while studying. Just kind of think about right now, what is it that when you're sitting in a classroom and maybe your professor is talking and you look up at the clock and you're like, okay, I'm here in class, da-da-da-da. And then 10 minutes later, you look up again and you're like, oh my gosh, what did that person do? I have no idea what was just said for like the last 10 minutes, because your mind wanders. Everybody has that experience. That can happen when you're doing homework or things too, right? That you're reading a whole page and you get to the end and you're like, I have no idea what I just read. And you kind of have to go back and read it again, right? And that is very disconcerting when it happens, and it feels like a huge waste of time, which it kind of is. But also it makes it so much harder to study, right? So all of those things, and things even in your life, I mean, I'm sure you've been in a conversation or two when your mind kind of wanders and you have no idea what the person just was saying to you, right? It's a very human thing, but just be aware at how much easier and how much fuller life or academics or your experience in a classroom or with a friend could be if you could stay focused, right? So that's a big part of what mindfulness does for us. So what mindfulness is not? It is not a sleep program or a way for you to work on insomnia. It's also not a relaxation technique. The goal of it actually is calm awareness. So feeling at peace, feeling calm while paying attention in a classroom or while you're doing your homework is kind of the goal. Now, does mindfulness help you with insomnia? Guess what? It actually does. Maybe not directly, but if you're not consumed with worry or consumed with psychological noise all the time, you're more likely to be able to get a good night's sleep. Or you won't be quite so worried about your tests, or you won't be quite so worried about that paper that you have to write or whatever. And frankly, if you are able to get through that textbook reading and remember what you read and not have to reread it all the time, there's going to be a little more time for relaxation and calm, right? So it all fits together. It all fits together. So mindfulness is also not about a particular religion or philosophy, although many religions have mindfulness as a component. So if you think about it, prayer is a form of mindfulness or meditation, and you can see all different versions of that. So sometimes people actually spend a great deal of time praying during the day, and they reap a lot of the same benefits that people who practice a mindfulness or a meditation practice do too, because they have many of the same components. So just to clarify that, right? So how does it work? Well, we're going to see a little video about how it works, but to start out with, I like to always use the analogy of somebody wanting to improve their heart health, right? So how would you improve heart health? What did you say?
Running.
So running, he said running. What's one thing that you could think of to improve your heart health?
Eating a high-fat diet.
A little obesity levity there.
Just the opposite.
Right.
Eating more fruits and vegetables.
So eating more fruits and vegetables. So there are a couple of strategies that you just came up with that would actually help improve your heart health, right? So in the same way, mindfulness training actually helps you develop focus by sort of exercising your brain, right? And in the same way that there are lots of strategies to use to improve your heart health, because there are lots more that you didn't mention, the same is true of mindfulness, and we'll see that in a little bit. But just so you know, the stereotypical version of somebody sitting cross-legged with their palms up and this kind of incense going in the background and all that stuff is but one way. There are lots and lots of techniques. And we explore lots of those in our mindfulness at Moore Park College sessions here on campus. Alrighty, so a little bit deeper trip into this through this video. So I'd like us to just kind of sit back and watch the show. It's just a few minutes long to give us an idea, a little bit better idea of how it works.
The human brain is a profoundly complex organ. 90% of its activity occurs beneath conscious awareness, which means that even though we assume that we have some control of how we think, feel, and behave, modern science suggests it's not so simple. The concept of neuroplasticity is a new and exciting area of science. It highlights that our brain is constantly being reshaped throughout our lives by both our experiences and our thoughts. We now know that it is the focus of our awareness that determines which brain networks are strengthened and which are weakened or lost. That means that when we get caught up in cycles of worry or irritability, these are the networks within the brain that become stronger. So the more we worry, the better we become at worrying. However, on the other side of this, if we practice being calm, clear and focused, we can strengthen these networks too. As humans, our brain differs from other animals. This is mostly due to the front areas of the brain called the frontal lobes, often called the new brain, as it was the last to develop in our evolution. When well developed, this part of our brain helps us to manage our strong emotions and respond with flexibility, even when we feel overwhelmed. It also helps us to tune into the feelings of others with empathy and insight. When we feel worried, distracted, or stuck on achieving goals, our brain function is more strongly dominated by our old brain, which has a part called the amygdala. The amygdala manages the powerful fight and flight response, which switches on when we feel stressed or anxious and releases hormones and chemicals such as cortisol and adrenaline. That is why stress has such a big impact on us. Mindfulness is a technique that can help us to manage this process more effectively by building our skills of attention, concentration, and a capacity to direct our awareness in a certain way. This all means that we're less likely to be swept up by a strong emotion and the power of the amygdala. It also means we can bring choice to our emotions and our thoughts. In doing so, we're playing an active role in changing the way the structure of our brain develops, in much the same way we can change the shape of our body by doing certain exercises at the gym. When we practice meditation regularly, we build a capacity to become aware of thinking and emotion. As our mind becomes more settled, our nervous system is able to take in more accurate information, and we can access capacities for creativity, flexibility, and lateral thinking, which enable us to manage challenging situations more skillfully. When we build skills of mindfulness, we still experience negative feelings like frustration, disappointment, fear, or irritability. But the research shows that we recover much more quickly. We now know from research into brain development that regular meditation and mindfulness practice reduces the size of the amygdala, reduces levels of stress hormones, and strengthens connections to the frontal lobes. This all means that we're more likely to live with less stress and more happiness.
All right. So to kind of reiterate a little bit, it's that it allows you to pay attention to the body, to notice your reactions to things that are happening, to recognize that, to kind of roll with the punches, and to make connections with the decision-making part of your brain in order to say, okay, I recognize this. This is just something that I'm gonna, that I'm gonna cope with. It's just nonsense that's happening right now. I'm just gonna move along. All right, so let's try some techniques. Isn't that the cutest dog? I just love that picture. I think that's really cute. I put it up here because it's as simple as breathing, right? And so the first thing that we want to think about besides the nose is we want to think about our posture. So remember before when I said, okay, sit up nice and tall, feet flat on the floor if you can. You can have your hands on your lap like that, or you can have them along the side body. But notice the three different postures there. So one is kind of the slouchy one that a lot of us find ourselves in. Not super good for sitting for a long time. Have you noticed that if you get kind of slouchy and you don't have good support, that your back maybe starts to hurt or your body starts to get a little bit sore, yeah, and you kind of squirm a little bit? Too, this guy, the young girl in the last little picture is kind of almost at full attention, and that's hard to maintain too, and it's going to make your shoulders hurt and your neck hurt. So just that nice, comfortable feet flat on the floor, sitting nice and tall, feeling like, a string is suspended from the top of your head to the ceiling, just holding you up nice and tall. This position is far easier to hold for a long period of time and allow you to keep your attention. All right, so now we got to think about the eyes. So there are a couple of different schools of thought about this. I actually usually do mindfulness with my eyes closed when I practice because I just get too distracted by visual cues. But a lot of people really are kind of, mindfulness purists, and they kind of like the half open eye position and have you look at something. Sometimes people use candles or they might use an object. I remember going to a meditation class one time and I was sitting behind this woman that was wearing a houndstooth sweater, and I just stared at the houndstooth the whole like through my, and it was visually stimulating enough to keep my attention and keep me awake, but it also it was regular enough not to be too exciting, right? I don't know, maybe you might be a little more excited about houndstooth than I was, but I'll never forget that staring at her houndstooth the whole time. Okay, so opened or like at half mast or closed, it's your choice. And then now we want to think about the breath. And so just take a couple of breaths right now, just really slow breaths in and out through the nose, and kind of feel where you feel the breath, right? If you have a stuffy nose today and it's too hard to breathe in and out through the nose, you could breathe in and out through the mouth too. So just a couple of breaths. So I'm just going to ask a couple of rhetorical questions now. You don't actually have to answer them, but just think about them as I ask the questions and think, and obviously you're going to continue to breathe or you'll not survive, right? So breathe and kind of try to incorporate my questions into your breathing. Alrighty. So how does the air feel as it enters your nose? And how does it feel as it leaves the body the same way? Where do you feel the airflow? Is it in the same place with the in and the out? So now just breathe in and out in no particular way, just keeping your attention held to the breath. As you breathe, you'll be distracted. Notice where your mind goes, and as soon as you notice it, pull it back to the breath. As you breathe, thoughts, feelings, and emotions will arise. When they do, notice and return to the breath. So we'll take just a few moments now to just breathe. Okay, so now wiggle the toes, run your thumbs across the fingertips, open up the eyes. All right, so that was a very short, just a couple minutes long. What were some of the things that you noticed as you were doing that very brief exercise? What was something that you noticed? Did you, not to put you on the spot, but...
No, not at all. Air is definitely fresher when you inhale.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lightheadedness.
You
When
felt
I
some
started
light...
talking a lot more.
Oh, and so did you feel like you were breathing more deeply and more
Yeah.
quickly than usual? Okay, that's an interesting thing to discover, yeah. So you felt a little lightheaded. What else, anything else? Were you able to feel where the air was? And where did you feel it? Did you feel it in your upper lip or your nose?
Straight into my brain.
Right. Oh, interesting. So you felt like kind of a whole head thing. What about you? What did you observe when you were doing that?
As I was breathing in, I could feel the cool air on my nostrils.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taking deep breaths, and so I could feel the stretch in my back.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Feel that,
Oh, that was cool. That's a cool thing to feel. So, it's kind of a nice thing. You know, a lot of the activities that you do in sports and things that you're involved in are really expensive, right? You have to buy the gear, you have to buy the shoes, you have to buy the whatever, right? So the good news about mindfulness is all you need is 3 things. Your breath, a good solid seat, and if you're doing a standing or walking one, you don't even need that, and a willingness to return to the breath when your mind wanders. And in that way, you train your mind to be able to focus. That's pretty cool, right? I gotta say, that's a good benefit. Alrighty. So, we already did that part of it. So I just want you to know that some people aren't super comfortable just sitting, right? I don't know if I should say anything about my husband because I'm being filmed, but he wants to jump out of his skin when he does mindfulness seated, right? But he has a very good yoga practice and is able to stay very focused in that, and he likes some of the other types of mindfulness practices too. So if sitting is not your thing, we have wonderful sessions on mindful eating. We have a wonderful walking session, and you think, gosh, it's not that hard to, what could you possibly be focusing on, right? But if you take time to focus on each little bit of walking, each little aspect of it, there's a lot going on, right? We did a visualization. We do a lot of visualizing in yoga, in mindfulness, and not too often in yoga, but sometimes. Mindful movement, we do a yoga practice, and there's another one that's kind of like a Tai Chi practice in our mindfulness training that's a lot of fun to do. And a really important one that we do early on in the sessions is called loving kindness, and it teaches you how to be able to recognize when you're annoyed, when you're on autopilot, when you're in traffic and people are driving like jerks around you, how to create kind of this idea that the person might have some stressful thing happening, or they're in a rush to get to the hospital, or something like that could be happening. And it allows you to kind of forgive them for annoying you, right? And when you can do that, it allows you to forgive yourself. It allows you to be a lot more calm. It allows you to be thankful and grateful that you're not rushing to the hospital or whatever. So all that day-to-day annoying crap that happens, you can kind of get on top of that. So we have lots and lots of different strategies, as I said, and people resonate with 1 or 2 or 3 different ones, I have to say. Though the more I practice them, the more I like all of them. Some were my favorites at the beginning, but as we went along, it was a little bit easier to like all of them. So, what are some benefits to students that you could come up with after just learning this little bit about mindfulness? Can you think of something that would be useful to you?
More efficient studying, definitely.
For sure. No, right? Right. And it might even make you stop dislike, like not everybody dislikes studying, but I can say that there are some things that are more fun to study than others maybe or whatever, and it would make you be able to tolerate the ones that you like a little bit less too in general. Yeah. Can you think of a good strategy or a good benefit to you as a student after?
Paying attention in class.
Yeah, yes, for sure. Yeah. Yes, there are lots, and just maintaining kind of a calm and equanimity and not being freaked out because it's finals or midterms or whatever have you, right? Good. Those are great. Those are great benefits. So not only are there benefits to students, but there are benefits to anyone, right? So in general, when people have a regular practice of mindfulness, and by regular, we like to say a daily practice of a short, at least a 15, 20-minute mindfulness session on your own is a good strategy. At least 5 days a week is still good. You're going to see a lot of benefits from it. And at that level of practice, you would start to realize health benefits that are very obvious. You would be able to improve your sense of well-being, emotional balance for sure, clarity, just understanding problems because you're more receptive to even experiencing them, understanding the pieces of them because you can really focus on it and not focus so much on the emotional component of it, right? Greater sense of appreciation, we say feeling thankful. Which is its own study and a really important part of well-being, actually. And then greater balance, actually, between work and school and your social life and your home life and all the other things, current events that kind of cloud our daily life. All of those things tend to become a little rosier when you have a regular mindfulness practice. So I absolutely love this little short video that was recently put out by Julie Bayer Salzman and Josh Salzman, and I think it kind of sums it all up for us. So let's go ahead and have a look-see at this one.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red.
When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body.
I just get out of control. It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel like. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think. And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart.
I really don't like when I get angry. The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breaths.
First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down.
When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths.
I breathe in through my nose.
Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths.
like it's calming down. It's like not like moving. It's like slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain.
It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain.
My brain like slows down, and then like I feel more calm, and then I'm like ready to speak to that person.
And who wouldn't want that kind of clarity, right? So it's not all about anger management, but it certainly does help with anger management. It helps with other kinds of emotional responses to external stressors, right? And just letting it all filter down to the bottom of the jar is what it's about. It's a beautiful experience to feel that happening to you. So, all that to say, this has hopefully been a good little commercial for you to let you know about mindfulness training, MT at MC, as we call it. So it's on Mondays and Tuesdays right here in Fountain Hall in the conference room. I facilitate the Monday one, and Dr. Laura Forsyth facilitates the Tuesday one, and we have some very enthusiastic students who come, and we work on some of these different techniques together. As I said before, each lesson has a different focus, but they all help you focus, right? So I hope that you'll consider coming and visiting and joining in and maybe staying for a session or two. You guys, it's so funny. I'm watching your faces, and you're just kind of, it's good. Yes, of course we. No, I mean, I can see the difference in your face. It's just hilarious, just to do that little bit, so you can imagine what a 15 or a 20-minute session every day would do for you, right? Cool. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for your kind attention, and film crew, thank you. And let me know do you have any questions at all whatsoever about this? Anything you can think of? Good. All right. Well, you know how to reach me. There you go. And I think the video of this is going to be on the Year of Wellness website. And there's always the possibility that you could just swing by the health center, and I'll be there too. And we're always interested in your questions and your comments, and also very happy to answer questions for you. So thank you very much for coming today. All righty.